uh, the business opportunity or on the investment side.
Correct, correct. So the energy transition is not just about shifting from fossil fuel to renewable energy. It was
Right.
about, creating a systemic transformation. That's what
Yeah.
Denmark has followed. And I
Right.
also shared a video around it. Let me run it quickly.
Yeah.
You have watched it, right? Already you
No,
guys.
I watched that video. In fact, it was a very nice, insightful actually.
Indeed, indeed. Look, they are targeting now 2030 as going to be complete green. That's the change of action they have taken, that they
Right.
want to their energy requirement specifically, they are shifting it to completely renewable energy. Of course, they
True.
have advantage. They have been in wind energy for long, and secondly, they have a first mover advantage. So they started quite early. Being a developed nation, they had a cash to infuse and
Right.
also a nerve to manage the show, right? At that point in time, nobody used to trust renewable energy can replace fossil fuel, etc. And also,
True.
green was not a mandatory requirement. So that's
Yeah.
what has played. So they had the nerve of steel because they faced a lot of backlash as well at that point in time. And their, senators, etc., went into parliament and explained the situation that they are determined to shift it to green energy, irrespective of world is going anywhere or nowhere. Specifically in
In fact,
2011, if you
in
have
fact,
seen
these people had the advantage of everyone supporting the entire, the political spectrum also was
political
helping.
will was there. Yes, you are right. Political will was the massive will because people were literally, not liking it initially, thinking
Yes.
just a fancy word they want to use it. And given that the world was not going towards it, why one country or a small group of nation wants to go towards greening their energy requirement was quite a unusual step by the government. And,
Yes.
but eventually they became a global leader now. 30% of one of their company is 30% supplier of all wind energy across world. It was used to be known as Dong, if you know about Dang or Dong. Dang, I believe.
Strong, I think.
Yeah.
Mm.
So now that has changed to Ostad, which is after named after Hans Ostad, who is into electromagnetism from Denmark. He used to hail from that country.
Mm.
His name
Mm, mm, mm.
Ostred. So they changed the name even to that company, and now that company holds 30% of. And the Dang was actually oil and gas company. Okay, so actually they were working on oil and gas, and they shifted after realizing that future is not there in the oil and gas. They acquired a small firm which was into wind energy, and then later on, 100% they have gone towards being
In
in.
fact, gone towards the entire coastal, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And now they only work on the offshore, means they have a massive line of wind supplies through the offshore. So that was an interesting
Right.
part there. So definitely now Denmark generates 50% of their electricity from the wind, but they
Mm-hmm.
aim 100% renewable by 2030. And that's why that story was quite interesting. Rajni ji, how are you?
Good, sir. Good, I'm good.
So आपने प्रिपेयर किया है प्रेजेंटेशन, डिड यू?
हाँ, मैंने बनाया है, लेकिन मैंने एक वो राइटअप भी लिखा था, मैं बना नहीं पाई थी। आई वाज क्वाइट बिजी, प्रेजेंटेशन नहीं आया। आई कैन स्पीक अबाउट इट।
Yeah, yeah, go ahead. That's what we are doing today.
So I what I did for the Denmark, I have taken out the 10 important points.
Okay.
That Denmark's clean energy policy and the steps taken. It is something like this. So one is that energy island initiative that they took is Denmark is now investing 7 billion in the offshore energy islands. They are mostly into the wind energy, and they have become Europe's energy hub. They enhance their scalability, and it is in line with the Paris Agreement, as you mentioned just now. That whatever the word says, but they have it decided and they started moving towards in this direction. They are from power to X technology was the motive. like a country aimed to establish 4 to 6 gigawatt of electrolysis capacity plant by 2030. Now they are expecting. They are also supporting hydrogen production and creating new hydrogen trade marketplace as well. And this I found out in the net. And Denmark is now positioning itself as a leader of the carbon storage. They are coming up as a carbon bank, and where they are leveraging its geological advantage, where they can store 12 to 22 billion metric tons of carbon dioxide. They have to achieve all this. They have a strategic policy framework has been adopted by their government. Strong government policies have come up with the certainty for the investors. So the Denmark's long-term energy transition has a confidence of the investor, and it is further driving it further. Accordingly, Denmark has also come up with the good infrastructure, which is a backbone of this energy transition to transformation, ensuring that this shift is towards the renewable energy is in line with the sustainable industrial practices. They also followed the market-driven approach. It was backed by a demand-driven model, where they ensured that the market forces sustainable economic growth in the green sector. Then technology readiness, they are in the readiness of the technology, where they are reinforcing the leadership in the renewable energy solution. And the regulatory over there has shown a matured kind of a behavior, and it is constantly evolving, where they are ensuring that whatever is happening with the ESG principle in accordance with the ESG principles, and that is why they are able to attract global capital also. Hello, are you there? Hello.
Yes, yes, very much. Go ahead, go ahead. I'm just listening.
And the so invest it is, well, you can call them investment magnet kind of a thing, because it has all the things. It has policy stability, it has technical progress, technological progress. Market is also viable, which is making Denmark as a very attractive destination for the global green energy investments for the world. So they are the global leaders. It's not just transitioning to the clean energy, but also leading the global conversation for the sustainable economical growth, setting the benchmark for other nations. That is what I have understood.
Perfect. I think well summarized. In 2 minutes, you
Yes.
covered all the most of the points. Good. Well
I
done.
cannot make presentation, but Apple का भी ऐसे ही मैंने लिखा है.
अरे क्या बात है, तो एप्पल भी सुन लेते हैं योर पॉइंट
एप्पल
ऑफ।
वाला आपका ब्लॉग बहुत ही अच्छा था वैसे, बाय द वे.
थैंक यू, अप्रिशिएट दैट।
मैं पढ़ती रही, मैं उसके बारे में कुछ लिखना चाह रही थी, बट मुझे टाइम नहीं मिल पाया,
राइट,
तो
तो
मैं कर
व्हाट्स
नहीं
योर
पाई.
ओपिनियन ऑन दैट?
I will start with your conclusion, right?
ओके।
What you have written was Apple's comprehensive clean energy strategy and the sustainability initiative demonstrate the leadership in the technological industry's climate efforts, where the product has positioned itself as a model for the corporate sustainability. This was your conclusion.
राइट।
But truly speaking, this Apple can fully achieve net zero emission by 2030, is to be seen. That is also you have mentioned, right?
ट्रू।
But its progress offers valuable insight for the other businesses aiming to reduce their environmental. This summarized everything. I read this first and then started writing.
वेरी गुड।
So Apple is making a significant effort to become a carbon neutral across its entire supply chain by 2030. So I try to correlate this, that the company is aiming to reduce its emission by 75% across scope 1 direct emission, scope 2 and scope 3 from the suppliers and the products, with the remaining 25% offsets through carbon removal projects. That is, you have mentioned in one of the paragraph. And key steps which they have followed is with switching to 100% renewable energy for its facilities, cutting emissions from the materials and the transportation, improving energy efficiency in their data center, which was very critical. And in 23, the major steps were taken where Apple had saved 36 million kilowatt annually through better server designs. बेसिकली अगर आप बुलेट वाइज समरी देखें सर, तो आपने एक ब्लैक कलर में एक चार्ट दिया था ईयर
Correct.
वाइज, है
Correct.
ना? तो 2015 they started working on it, where they launched clean energy program.
Right.
And supply, where Apple had initiated the supplier clean energy program to encourage their suppliers to transition to renewable electricity. This is very, I think, hand-holding of a supplier and encouraging them is a very productive step, which has resulted in their success. They
Correct.
established the renewable energy requirement in the supplier code of conduct में डाल दिया उन्होंने कि भैया अगर माल बेचना है तो करना पड़ेगा,
Correct.
right? And in 2018, they achieved it 100% renewable energy for the facilities also. All Apple facility, data center, retail store, offices, they were running on the 100% renewable energy. What an achievement.
Indeed.
And in 23, what they did, there was a significant progress in the carbon reduction. They had 320 odd suppliers, and which was covering nearly 95% of their manufacturing spend. So they've got commitment from them कि 100% renewable energy से हिलाओगे तो हम लेंगे, नहीं तो नहीं लेंगे. That's it, and they've done it also. Energy efficient designs were used by them, which could bring additional saving of 36 million kilowatt hours in their data centers. Then they used a recycled material into the product, which I read it for the first time in the computer industry, but it is being used now, with the 22% of a material in the shipped products being recycled. What have they done to further reduce the carbon footprint? Now, one is they are doing, not only they are insisting on the manufacturer level, जो बाकी इनका 5% का बचा हुआ है, all levels, scope 1, scope 2, scope 3, they are doing it. Now they are targeting using of 100% recycled cobalt in batteries, recycled gold plating in the circuit boards by 2025. No, I'm waiting. When will they take back my phone? I have old phone. I want to buy new. I didn't have money at this time. तो I have, भैया मेरा फोन ले लो. तुम्हें बैटरी चाहिए, कोबाल्ट बैटरी तो उसमें भी है. It has now partnered with many agencies. So through its clean energy program, Apple has set a strict sustainability standards, and it is pushing the entire industry towards the green practices. And they are also reinforcing its commitment to reduce scope 3 emissions, which is very difficult in the industry, the way you have taught us, because
True.
पूरी value chain में करना मुश्किल होता है. So they have come up as a leader in the corporate sustainability, and they have become a driving force in the technological industries, and they are fighting the war very well against the climate change and going to be a winner. That is my take, which I read from your. I didn't read anything else.
No, 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 good.
Read only your article. That was very
No,
well.
no, no, it's summarized well. Well done.
Really, she summarized well, very exhaustively. Very nice, Rajini ji,
Sir,
Indeed,
the way you put it across.
I agree. Well done. So these were two ideal case studies which has indicated from transition to transformation. But still we have some part to be covered, which I will try to cover now in next 30 minutes.
हम दो ही हैं सर, भास्कर और भास्कर सर आप नहीं हैं,
Not
बाकी
Yeah,
everybody.
yeah, I'm there.
ठीक है, हम दो काफी हैं, चलिए हम पढ़ने के लिए तैयार हैं.
एक समझ दो.
आप पेन ले
So
लो, हम पेन लें.
indeed, what we will do is we will quickly look into critical important topics which need to be covered. For example, we have to understand decarbonization strategy. Now, renewable energy is expanding, that's true, but decarbonization as a strategy need to be adopted by corporates as well as country. We saw Denmark as an example there. They have adopted decarbonization of their energy system by following clean energy pathways. Depending rather than depending on fossil fuel, they have shifted their focus to wind, and they are able to achieve. Similarly, any company or country can adopt such kind of policy. And the pathway starts with renewable energy expansion, which India also, you must have seen, has done in last 10 years. Yeah, from 50 gigawatts, now we are having more than 200 gigawatts of power supply coming from here. And by 2030, we expect this number to reach to 500 gigawatts. Of course, in 2030, we will have much larger requirement as well. So we expect 50% will be definitely coming from the renewable energy. Now, and that is why this is a critical part. So where from renewable energy maximum time comes is from solar and wind.
Solar and yeah.
Absolutely. These are the only two major source. Of course, hydropower plants, etc. also is a major part. But that depends upon geography to geography, right? It depends upon whether you have such kind of rivers which you can use to convert that renewable energy. Now, scaling up capacity to replace coal and gas is the first line of action anybody, any country or company does. Second, they look into their global solar capacity as well, which is set to triple by 2030, reaching 5,500 gigawatt according to International Energy, IEA. Hydropower and geothermal is the third, and also quite a large amount of renewable energy it can provide, and that too, even in all seasons, right? That's the advantage of hydro and geothermal. Once you capture it, it can, run your houses as well as your grid for longer term, because this provides a stable and base load renewable energy. In solar and wind, it depends upon the natural process. For example, sunlight should be there available to capture that, or wind flow has to be there enough to, create the energy. But when you are sourcing through hydropower and geothermal, once you have created the structure, automatically it goes for larger exposure. Now, electrification is another area for decarbonization. Now, which starts from transportation, right? So electric vehicle is one of those requirement in transportations which can take you through clean energy pathway, which is projected to make up 60% of new car sales by 2030. And this is the Bloomberg data. Now, heating and the industry requirement, which requires a massive amount of electricity to be converted. For example, heat pumps and electric furnaces are replacing gas boiler now, and that is another clean energy pathway engine, which is coal-fired system can be replaced with heat pumps. Now, carbon capture and storage is a costly arrangement, CCS, because it requires a lot of research and development, and few country who has already got expertise in it, they are very happy to transfer this technology. For capturing carbon dioxide from power plants or industrial processes through DAC system, etc., requires a massive investment. Now, here, a very interesting example of Norway Northern Lights comes into play. Now, have you heard about Norway Northern Lights?
नॉर्दर्न वो तो टूरिज्म का एक बहुत बड़ा अट्रैक्शन है
बहुत
सीजन.
बड़ा attraction है. Until next year, it is means till 2025, it is happening on regular basis, specifically in the time of winter.
It's a blessing in disguise because of the withering weather, or it is a इतना जल्दी जल्दी नहीं दिखता था ना सर ये.
नहीं दिखता था. The reason is the solar flares, which is coming this time excessively on Earth. So that is
Because
due.
of the depletion of the ozone layer.
No, it's not because of the depletion. It is because of the phenomena of slow solar flares, which in
मुझे
the
सोलर
sun.
फ्लेयर फिनोमिना नहीं पता. कैन यू प्लीज एलिब्रेट अ बिट.
हाँ, तो ये नॉर्दर्न लाइट्स जो है, ऑरोरा जो क्रिएट होती है, इट्स अ काइंड ऑफ रिफ्लेक्शन इन द नाइट which reflects the solar rays का रेडिएशन. मतलब लुक, सोलर तो हमेशा आपको अर्थ के पास आ रहा है, बट व्हेन द अर्थ मूव्स ऑन द बैक साइड ऑफ इट बिकम्स नाइट, राइट?
राइट.
But still rays passes across the earth, and that creates the aurora. Now, of course, there's a scientific process to it, which I need to read and tell you guys, but
नहीं,
it's
आई विल रीड इट नाउ. मुझे अब मिल गया पॉइंट.
right. So natural, it's a natural phenomena. क्योंकि रात में दिखता है, and it looks like it's like a rainbow. You can say in And it's quite interesting stuff. Now, the same name was used for one of the clean energy pathway, which Bhaskar ji was mentioning a couple of minutes earlier, right? Where they have found out a place to dump their carbon dioxide beneath the earth. Okay. And this
Right.
project aims to store more than 1.5 million tons of carbon dioxide annually, starting from 2024. So last year only, after so much of investment, last 5 year, last year they started this process. And this is that case of Northern Lights. So as you can see, it's an, again in Nordic area. Three companies came together, and all three companies are well known for polluting environment, starting with Total Energy. Equinor, only few people know Equinor because it changed their name recently. Earlier they were known as Total Stat Oil. So they changed their name to rebrand themselves. And Shell, Shell everybody knows, right? These are
Yeah.
three exploration and in oil exploration and distribution companies. So they are known for their polluting the environment. So they decided in 2017 in October to start a project where they found out an area in the sea. If you see on in the picture, it's quite well shown. They identified an area next to Norway as a receiving terminal, and then they transported all the carbon dioxide which was captured in this process of exploration or other industrial processes, whatever they must have captured, converted into liquefied gas or liquefied carbon dioxide storage. They transported it from Netherlands, Norway, etc., and they are dumping it in the storage side. If you can see in the middle of the sea, what they are doing is there. Of course, there will be sea for say half a kilometer or so, and then 2 kilometer below that, 2.7 kilometer below the earth level, they are injecting this carbon dioxide, so it cannot come out. Same like nowadays, horizontal drilling or fracturing, they say, by fracking, they say, by fracking method, they extract the oil, right? So they drill one and then they do horizontal drilling after that, and they can capture all the trapped gases and oil from the rock formation and bring it up. That is called fracking in oil and gas industry. Same technology they have used for injecting the carbon dioxide down. Okay, so they had that expertise in fracking, which India is also tying up now because in Bombay High we have really found out big resource of oil, and under Reliance, I think we are going to right now ONGC has signed already the technologies transfer from BP, I believe. It's a British Petroleum who is giving them the fracking, and hopefully India 50% fossil fuel requirement can be fulfilled in next 5 to 10 years. Of course, by that time, I hope we also start shifting ourselves from a reliance on the fossil fuel as other countries are doing. But if that doesn't happen, at least our foreign currency will be saved. Now, as you see here, this project started in October 2017. Northern Light, because in this area only Aurora or Northern Light in the scene, so they named this project. This is the first project in world itself which allowed industrial companies, even transport companies, to sequester their CO2 emissions. Sequester means trapping the CO2, carbon dioxide. So all these companies required this to, in order to, this is a kind of CCUS. CCUS is a technology based system to capture the carbon and convert into bricks or pellets or, carbon powder. Or again, you can do the sequestration by trapping it below the earth. But these guys have decided to do it in the sea. This is the first project which they have taken in the world. Now, as you see, May 2020, initially this project was owned by equal share. Each company owns, because it required a lot of investment, right? To collect all that carbon, put it into sea, then transport it to Norway from Netherlands, collect from Norway, and then go and plant under the sea. So first time they have done this in December in 2024. So first phase of installation has been done, and they have put below the earth 1.5 million tons of carbon dioxide, right? So that phase is ready, and this 1.5 million ton they are planning to even extend to a massive number of 15 trillion ton. Now I think it was 15 trillion ton, 1.5 trillion million tons right now, CO2 annually, and this capacity will be increasing very soon. So yes, the name is Norway's Northern Light project, which aim to store 1.5 million tons of CO2 annually. And project is the first major carbon capture and storage project in Norway. Okay, how it works? Very simple. CO2 is captured from industrial sources. It's transported by a ship receiving terminal in Øygarden in Norway, and it is pumped through a pipeline in the subsea structure. So there is a pipeline, the blue line, the purple line, dark line, which you see is a pipeline which takes there and drops in below the subsea structure or seabed, you can say. It is injected through geological formation, same like you extract for permanent storage. And what is included in this project is transportation. So the project includes a pipeline and a ship for transporting CO2, and storage, which is a project include a reservoir. So area has been designated to store this carbon dioxide below the subsea level. And of course, there is a receiving terminal also has been created in Øygarden, or was there is a O and then there is a cross there, which is a Danish specific Danish O. Who is involved? Total Energy, which owns the equal share, along with the Equinor, which is used to be State Oil, a very famous oil and gas exploration company, a very old one, and along with Shell.
Shell.
Now, they will increase the capacity very soon as well. Okay, so that capacity is going to go to 5 million tons per year. So that was an interesting case. I thought you guys should know about CCS as well, carbon capturing and storage systems. And this is one of the best storage system in world available, which is using the natural resources to trap the carbon dioxide below earth. Then sector by sector, the solution can change. For power generation, you can transition to 100% renewable energy by mid-century. That's the most of the power generating companies are committing to. For example, even Uruguay already generates 98% of their electricity from renewable, hydropower, wind, and solar. It's a combination of these three. So that's another very good example there, that a small company, of course, a smaller country had the advantage that their requirement is little lesser. So for them, transitioning is very easy. So Uruguay is going to be one of those first countries which will reach their 100% renewable generation very soon. Transportation is another sector which is going towards clean energy pathway again. They are doing it by accelerating EV adoption, right? And developing hydrogen fuel as an alternative. And that's why in India, Girishji, who had joined, I believe, was talking about that 23 states, etc. They are doing hydrogen.
Sir,
Uh,
Fuel cells.
due to technical reason, I was unable to join.
oh, who is it?
It's for only searching, not capturing the link.
Okay, 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 okay,
I,
okay.
I I dropped the message to Sandeep ji also about that.
Okay, but I believe it was sent to everyone. But nevertheless, I think you have come in the right time because the presentations were happening. Have you prepared your presentation, Girishji?
Regarding, sir?
The presentation on two of the case study which we have shared?
No, sir. Not
Is
aware.
it? Okay. No worries. Anyway, two people have already done the presentation. We have recorded that. You can listen to it.
Okay, okay.
But nevertheless, we need a presentation and along with your examination for the certification purposes. Okay. So examination, I will give you the link today.
I shall submit by before Sunday.
Done, done, done. No worries.
वो
But
थोड़ा सा वो
examination, attempt it after the session. We will complete in another 15-20 minutes.
Okay.
And then I believe you can attempt the exam. Anyway, till tomorrow, everybody, if you want to do it at your comfort, we trust you. We'll give you the link. Attempt it by tomorrow, by evening. and then we will announce the your scores, right?
Okay, sir.
Today is a busy day, has been a busy day for all of us, and not all are
That's why
there.
today we
Maybe
will not do it. We will stop the session in half an hour, 15-20 minutes, and
जी
then
Okay.
you attempt it in your free time. No worries. Up to tomorrow evening.
इसमें सर आपने मॉड्यूल 1, मॉड्यूल 2, मॉड्यूल 3 थोड़ा सा एंड में एक बार समराइज कर दीजिएगा।
मैं अभी करूंगा ना, अभी वही जा रहा हूँ. जस्ट आई एम गोइंग देयर. सो लास्ट वन इज
क्योंकि हम
इंडस्ट्री.
लोगों का ना बहुत सेग्रीगेटेड रहा है, हमारा थोड़ा हौच पौच हो रहा है ये से कि हम लोग डायमंड
रिकॉर्डिंग विल बी
स्टडी में
प्रोवाइडेड.
नहीं नहीं सर, ऐसा है कि
रजनी
समझ
जी,
सब आता है।
रजनी जी, रिकॉर्डिंग विल बी प्रोवाइडेड, सो डोंट वरी.
हाँ, इसमें क्या है कि हमें ना एक हमारा डायमंड का क्या है जो हमारा सीएफए का कोर्स है, और ये बीच में हमारे 3 बूट कैंप्स है। आई थिंक दिस इज वन ऑफ देम।
ये आप इसको यूज करिए. नेक्स्ट टाइम फिल रन करेंगे. इफ यू आर नॉट कंफर्टेबल, दिस इज द बेसिक्स. यू हैव टू अंडरस्टैंड व्हाट वी आर
मैम मैम
सीएफए.
मैम वो एनसीईआरटी बुक है, ये एग्जाम के टाइम वाली कुंजी है।
पता है मैंने लॉ
राइट.
किया ना, लॉ किया तो मैंने कुंजी पढ़ के किया गिरीश।
सब
ये
आदमी
मेरा
ऐसे
टाइम ही नहीं
करता
था।
है. रजनी
मैम
जी.
हाँ जी।
यूनिवर्सिटी बताओ, मैं बता दूंगा कितने का खर्च आया हुआ है। बस आप
चौधरी
मेरठ
चरण की
यूनिवर्सिटी।
यूनिवर्सिटी करती थी ऐसे, उसी से किया
कौन
मैंने।
सा, मेरठ वाली?
हाँ
मेरठ यूनिवर्सिटी है
हाँ, मेरठ यूनिवर्सिटी।
मैम।
वो उस दिन भी बोल रहे थे।
Let me restart now. Let me restart the session. So what I was telling you that each industry requires its own specific clean energy pathways, but it's good fun. Power generation, I have already talked about it. Transportation, we have talked that EV transportation, and here the very good example is of Norway. Norway leads with 80% of their all new car, which is getting sold today, is in electric. And this is happening for last 2 years. Actually, the number must have increased to 90% now in this year, 2025. However, Norway leads this initiative. India has started with FAME 1 and FAME 2. Unfortunately, both time they failed because industry, could not transition themselves to, nationalistic agenda was a major issue. We wanted captive unit producing end-to-end EVs in India, which was very difficult in FAME 1. So few people like even Hero, Honda has been caught cheating there. Then FAME 2 was introduced where they reduced the subsidies, etc., specifically in two-wheeler. And that also looks like is not flying off. Why? Because the subsidy has been reduced drastically and it doesn't fit into the pocket of an individual. Now, just example, Rajni ji, if I give you a choice to buy a kinetic Honda for 1 lakh rupees and buy a battery operated kinetic Honda for 3 lakh rupees, and that with 4 year you have to change the battery, which one you will buy? Even though after buying it is
All
cheap.
depends on the kilometer I have to travel, sir.
Yeah, but that is discussion is secondary. That discussion is secondary. The reason is your pocket. Means, of course, not you. I'm saying a person who is using
Generally.
two-wheeler, who's
सर
using two.
सर 1 लाख वाला ही खरीदेंगे, फिर अगले साल दोबारा
Obviously, he will buy
दोबारा ले।
1 लाख रुपए वाला. यही हुआ था फेम 1 में. 30,000 की चाइनीज बाइक was more preferred than हीरो मोटर्स की even 60,000 की. जबकि half of the material he was buying from the China. Still, it was costlier to assemble in India. So, and India wanted at least 30% should be processed in India, and they were unable to manage, and that's why they have
सर
to.
इंडिया में अभी भी जो हाइब्रिड जनरेशन आ रही है वो भी बहुत कॉस्टली है। आई थिंक गिरीश ने एक आर्टिकल पोस्ट किया था
Hybrid
गाड़ियों।
in four wheeler is selling more. EV sale has gone down in 2024, and the reason is the charging infrastructure. वो अलग ही debate है.
वो एक
Charging
अलग
infrastructure.
तरीके।
Yeah.
चार्जिंग इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर प्लस at present price is 30% higher than the normal rate.
Yes, that's the problem, right? And India wanted to do that.
यही सबसे बड़ा रीजन है।
वो
ये
बहुत ही
आपने
challenging.
आर्टिकल पोस्ट किया था ना, बड़ा अच्छा आर्टिकल था वो।
So, और दूसरी बात क्या है ना, रजनी जी, द सेकंड प्रॉब्लम इन इंडिया इज हम लोग कार जब लेते हैं तो लंबी ड्राइव करते हैं. वी जनरली डू दैट. या मतलब मिनिमम 60 किलोमीटर से 500 किलोमीटर जाएंगे. इवन बाइक पे लोग रूरल एरिया में जो रहते हैं वो बाइक से ही आते हैं शहर में काम करने के लिए. आप देख लो ना,
सर
पालम है दिल्ली.
आप बेंगलोर बैठे हो, इंडिया आओ, दिल्ली नॉर्थ आओ, आपको यहाँ पे क्लब मिलेगा आपको, बाइकर्स का जो लद्दाख जाते हैं।
लद्दाख
हाँ
जाते,
हाँ,
करेक्ट. इवन
मैं
इधर
टूर
भी है.
कराती थी गिरीश, मैं टूर कराती थी। बाइक
अच्छा,
से
यहाँ से सर,
तवांग वैली
सर
सिटी,
आप मानोगे कोविड में यहाँ से गोवा गए लोग बाइक से, कोविड में।
Wow.
तवांग वैली, लेह लद्दाख पूरे
यस,
जा
वेरी
सकते
राइट, वेरी राइट। यहाँ से सर
हो।
पूरा मतलब यूनियन है, मतलब बाइकर्स का जो मतलब बुलेट का पूरा यूनियन है जो मतलब
ट्रायम्फ
लद्दाख
होता
जाता
है ना, ट्रायम्फ, ट्रायम्फ बाइक,
Hmm.
वो जो थोड़ी महंगी है, 6-7, आई थिंक 10-1 लाख की बाइक है वो।
है। यस।
बिल्कुल,
Even
तो वो
वो हार्ली
कंपनी उसको,
डेविडसन की है ना, वो लोग तो
Harley
हार्ली।
Davidson has got a club.
हाँ,
या एवरीवन इज अ क्लब, उसमें
करेक्ट।
सेलिब्रिटीज चलते हैं सर।
हार्वी बोलते हैं उसको। हमारा एक मेंबर है, मतलब ऑफ कोर्स ही इज सिटिंग इन मिडिल ईस्ट नाउ, ही इज अ कैनेडियन, ही इज मोस्टली अराउंड 75 नाउ, right, but still he loves his bike and he drives the Harvey for 200 kilometer 5
और
पूरा
सन की
उनके
लोग ही
घूम
हैं
जाता
सर जो इतना दूर ट्रैवल करते हैं।
पूरा घूम जाता है वो। तो
सन
अभी
की
भी
है
मतलब
सर।
that's a charm of bike. Bikers have a different altogether
वेरी
take.
राइट।
So
यहाँ
industry
बहुत अच्छा,
guys,
यहाँ से लोग चंडीगढ़ जाएंगे और चंडीगढ़ से फिर बाइक से निकलेंगे लद्दाख के लिए। और इधर नॉर्थ में स्पेशली इस जोन में, दिल्ली एनसीआर जोन के एरिया में है कि यंग एज के जो भी हैं उनके पास बुलेट है, और अगर उस बुलेट ने लद्दाख की शक्ल नहीं देखी है तो बोलते हैं क्या कि ये मतलब वो
useless
कार।
bullet.
किसी ऐसी काउंटिंग नहीं होगी उसमें।
स्टिकर चाहिए।
यस।
That is what the EV
वो झंडा चाहिए, झंडा वो जो होता है ना बुद्धिस्ट वाला,
हाँ
वो
हाँ
लगा।
हाँ।
और
अच्छा,
देखा
हाँ,
मैंने,
ऊपर लगाते हैं ना, लद्दाख वाला एक
अच्छा लगता है अगर
फ्लैग भी
आपको,
लगाते हैं उसको,
हाँ,
छोटी छोटी।
टूरिज्म पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से बड़ा अच्छा लगता है। पूरा एक्सपेडिशन चल रहा होता है, 30-40 बाइक चल रही होती है, आपकी गाड़ी चल रही होती है, बड़ा मजा आता है
Indeed,
सर।
it's a good fun. It's a good fun.
गुड फन।
So that is why Norway leads there. But coming to industry, switching to low carbon fuels like green hydrogen is the only way out. Which again, Girishji was mentioning about it, that in India, 23 states are talking about it now. And improving energy efficiency is another area in industry, so that we can create a clean energy pathway, specifically for industry like steel and cement, which are heavy industry. And it requires massive amount of carbon dioxide emission. Example here is Sweden's hybrid project. It's quite a famous project now, and it's producing fossil fuel steel using hydrogen, and that too they are talking about green hydrogen, not ammonia hydrogen. So that's a good example there. Now, module 3 we are going into, which is a link. I believe ecological concepts are, and biodiversity is the only link from what we are doing right now and what we want to achieve in 2050. Why I say so, specifically funding, if funding starts happening, this will be the game changer. Why? Because we know ecosystem, the 7 layer of ecology is very important to understand, which starts with honeybees, right? We say honeybees, if honeybees dies, whole world will die within a year, or whole ecosystem will crumble if there is no honeybees. Similarly, each ecosystem is a kind of a link between what we do today and how nature survives itself, right? So nature has created its own ecosystem, and that ecosystem it called ecology. Now, what is this ecosystem and how it links with biodiversity, and why we are telling that funding and sustainable finance in biodiversity will be that link which will bring back our net zero emissions requirement a possibility, and that to much faster scale if it happens. And one of that example was COVID situation. If anybody remembers in COVID, means I have witnessed it being in Bangalore, that even on road, क्या बोलते हैं उसको, cheetahs and lot of wild animals were roaming around in Bangalore, Mysuru, etc. Yeah, even peacock has come on road, and means they have reclaimed. Point was that greening has happened its own. Once we stopped going on road, they came on road and they enjoyed it. So point here is,
Food perhaps, in the
जी,
search of food they had come out,
I didn't get it. Sorry, come again.
खाने की खोज में निकले थे वो सब।
अब सब खाने की खोज में निकले थे, and the best part is that they can reclaim. Point is that they can
They
survive.
reclaimed their territory,
Yeah,
yes.
they reclaim their territory,
We
and
encroached few years back.
so this is very important point. And you know that, right? A lot of recovery has happened on the depletion of carbon dioxide going down, oxygen in environment increasing. And humanity survived after that. The virus gone, and nobody knows how it gone. People say it is an injection. It is the we took so many injections, antivirus and etc., and that has saved us. Tell me, still there are 1,000 people who have not been taken injection, and how they are surviving in the same environment which was polluted by COVID earlier. Yeah. So there is something which nature adjusts itself. So that is why biodiversity in ESG framework is that missing link, which we need to understand.
Yeah,
Sorry. Yeah, sorry. You are saying something, Bhaskar ji.
No, nothing, sir. Nothing.
Okay.
No,
So,
no.
I was
okay.
coughing rather. Let me
Okay.
put it.
I was telling that biodiversity in ESG, let's start with E, which is environment, right? So biodiversity loss is a critical environmental risk, actually. If we lose all our species, it will create a environment disaster. So environmental risk impacting the ecosystem and climate stability is shown in that picture, right? In the green picture, if you see there, we are talking about function, right? Ecosystem function, that biodiversity interacts with ecological process. It also interacts with genetic diversity, then functional traits and species richness, and then you have a biophysical structure and biotic interaction, right? There are two types of interaction in the ecology, and biotic is one of the critical ones because that feeds into your socio-economic system, which has its own benefit, like human well-being, getting nutrition from different plant, different species. Clean air and water is the first benefit which we realize because of this ecosystem thriving, which is in green. Then it creates a value for us other than the health, safety, security. Means, look, sometimes we don't think they are making our lifestyle secure, but sometimes having cheetah, etc., also make living safe for us because that becomes an alarm for larger threats which a human being faces. And then, of course, enjoyment, right? End of the day, now bird sanctuary been created in Gujarat, if you know, next to statue of what is that? A statue? No, no, no. A statue of
Unity, sir.
Unity.
iron unity. Yeah,
Unity.
the iron
Iron Man's.
statue.
In
Now they have
in
created a
fact,
bird sanctuary there. So anybody who is visiting the Statue of Unity, they should definitely visit that bird sanctuary which has been developed. So that becomes a
in
fun as well. And that creates a value for us as a socio-economic advantage. It creates a economic value. It's a natural attraction. It has a health value, definitely getting green air, green area and green and better, always a health value. And then
in fact, Vivek ji,
yes,
here in Noida,
right.
the UP government has created a biodiversity.
yes,
Okay, it's very near to my place actually.
Oh, is
It's a
it?
walkable
कालीपुर से
distance.
निकलते हैं तब रास्ते में आता है ना सर एक जो
Yes,
कालीपुर से
yes.
नोएडा की तरफ जाते हैं लेफ्ट साइड में आता है ना
बराबर है, बराबर है.
हाँ
93 सेक्टर
I didn't
93
go
में है.
but I saw it हाँ
Awesome.
It's really good. I went inside. It is really, they made it beautiful.
okay
Awesome. Awesome. And see that creates a unique proposition for society living in concrete jungle, right? थोड़ा
Yes.
आपको रिस्पाइट मिल जाता है and you feel like you are living in a thriving city. तो सिटी की भी वैल्यू बढ़ जाती है. दैट इज वाई इकोनॉमिक वैल्यू, हेल्थ वैल्यू, along with shared social value. देखिए आपने अभी बोला भारती जी ने इंटरेक्ट किया, उन्होंने भी देखा हुआ है. अभी कुछ देर में हमारे गिरीश जी भी लाइव हो जाएंगे, उन्होंने भी देखा होगा पक्का.
नहीं सर, मैंने सुना भी नहीं है, झूठ क्यों बोलूंगा, मैं सुना भी
अच्छा,
नहीं है। फर्स्ट
तो
फर्स्ट टाइम मैंने
आप
देखा।
गुरुग्राम में
फर्स्ट
हो?
टाइम।
देखा मैंने भी नहीं है मैंने सिर्फ सुना है
आप
नहीं
गुरुग्राम में
नहीं,
हो?
मैंने पहली बार सुना है।
चलिए, तो अब शेयर्ड वैल्यू बनी ना, वही हम बताना चाह रहे हैं कि इस तरह से नाउ यू हैव बीन इन्फॉर्म्ड, तो आप अपने बच्चों को, अपनी फैमिली को लेके एक दिन जाओगे, राइट? दैट्स अ शेयर्ड सोशल वैल्यू, another value which gets created through socio-economic interaction of ecological or ecosystem. And that brings the driver of change where again we demand more such kind of ecological system around us, right? That drives that change. And of course, there is a responses to that, like institutions, businesses, etc., start contributing towards it, creating such kind of biodiversity unit. And I have given this example several times that Wipro has created They started by accident doing plantation because earlier plantation was counted as a good CSR initiative. Wipro in 98 started that, right? One of those members is part of our team as well, who started this as a activity in Wipro. Today, that activity is turning out to be a massive biodiversity initiative where Wipro is getting awards, several awards in a row for last 10 years because of those initiatives which they have taken 20 years ago. And by just accident, right? They thought it is good for the environment. Later on, they realize I can put that into my sustainability report and get several awards about it, right? So that institution and business comes into play along with several policy get changed, like stubble burning, which is a challenge right now, which is a required challenge by farmer, right? It is not farmer, it's not a choice of farmer, but they are forced to do it. Changing that in a way that you sell me those stable, I will create biomass about it. And there are several IITians and etc. has started company around it. And it is happening on ground. It's not no longer in discussion. Has become a new ecosystem where I will give you biochar, right? One company who is doing that has got massive investment and sale of the carbon itself. Forget about the biochar, the carbon credit Google is buying from a company called Varaha, right? At $100 per unit. For next 5 years, they have booked those carbon dioxide coming from the biochar. This is a carbon credit, not actual biochar. Okay. So just a document around it is also benefiting. And that's how the agriculture is becoming sustainable in the area of Noida, etc. Now, a stakeholder and user need to interact with that, and then each industry has its own, like fisheries has, fishery also has a massive biodiversity requirement, etc. And all of them plays that missing role, which is critical. Of course, there is economic value. This ecosystem services like pollination, water purification, carbon sequestration, etc., is a critical part, which worth right now 125 to 140 trillion annually. And this is an estimate done by WWF. Now, this WWF is also a very old organization I have seen since my childhood, right? They used to come for donation. Now they have set their own standard for biodiversity. Okay, they are the one of the critical agency like Global Reporting Initiative, etc. In biodiversity, WWF document is most adored and followed right now, and they have estimated approximately 125 to 140 trillion annually through this ecosystem. How? Through carbon regulation, okay, climate regulation. So forest observe, as you know, more than 30% of global CO2 as a sink. There are only two type of sink available in the world. Carbon sink. There is a carbon emission. Another side, you need a sink, right? To observe those carbon. One is your trees, which is forest, right? Because forest takes carbon dioxide
Carbon dioxide.
and emits the oxygen. So that is 30% currently. And that's why deforestation is counted as the massive sin if people are doing it. Okay. And it's no longer just a good air and clean air, but it is required air if somebody is doing deforestation. So that is a critical element. Apart from that, there is one more, critical element which act as a sink is your ocean. Ocean absorbs the carbon dioxide and it acts as a free carbon, credit to us. So these are the two things, and that's why IPCC has estimated that 30% of our global CO2 is right now is getting absorbed by forest, and this should increase because you can't increase the ocean, right? Can you increase the water on the earth? No, you can't. Anyway, it is growing and it is taking over your land because of the glacier melting. So you can't expect anything worse than that. But same time, forest you can always grow, right? And that's why second economic value comes from the food security and biodiversity, because over 75% of global food crops rely on animal pollination. Without animal pollination, we will be exposed to, starving to death. And then the third economic value comes from the corporate disclosure itself. Now, TNFD is another regulation like TCFD, which is very famous because this is also a task force on the nature related financial disclosure, right? A lot of company are doing, and here In India, you have a forestry requirement as well. So these two coming together, TNFT is an international requirement. A lot of companies follows it, and this helps company to assess and report about biodiversity risk and opportunity which that company carries, right? Third important link into biodiversity is the regulatory framework. Now, global targets are already there from Cuming Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework, and they have their own COP. They are running their own conference of party, which is around right now in 16. This is 16th COP has happened, or fourth, I believe. There is three COP which I hear all the time. One is the conference of party, which is our United Nation created one, where all countries comes together, where Paris Agreement, etc., has happened. COP 29 has happened in Baku, as you know,
Yes.
and before that it happened in Dubai. Then there is one more COP which just happened after that, the main COP, which was COP 16 has happened. And then there is a biodiversity COP as well, which is one of the example is Cuming Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework, which has been given that by 2030, we should protect 30% of our land and ocean, yeah, going forward. And then the EU regulation is very active in biodiversity. They know they are surrounded by sea, and they know the maximum biodiversity comes through the sea. So they have a strategy for 2030 mandate as well for restoring degraded ecosystem and reducing the pesticide use, which is going into the sea eventually. Now, financial risk of biodiversity loss itself is massive, but people are expecting going forward, we will have some positive outcome, because if we can avoid, minimize, and restore, we can additionally generate positive outcome of this biodiversity loss. That's why it has become a center point of discussion nowadays, and everybody wants to take a part of it. At least the corporates wants to contribute towards it. Why? Because you actually handle three risks by doing this. Physical risk, which is ecosystem collapse, which can disrupt your supply chain network, like agriculture, fisheries going out of equation. Transition risk is another one, which is stricter regulation and shifting consumer preferences towards sustainable product. If you are cutting tree and producing something, people will definitely avoid in future. So be conscious about it. And third is reputational risk. So all three risks, which is the financial risk, is critical for biodiversity loss. Reputational risk, of course, the company which is linked to deforestation or habitat destruction can face a backlash. 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 And now sustainable finance and biodiversity is another topic which is critical. For example, green bonds, which has now issuance has reached to $2.5 trillion in 2023, where the funds mostly are increasing their allocation to biodiversity projects as well, right? So green bond is one of those bonds which is mostly getting used by biodiversity initiative. Apart from natural capital funds, also going towards biodiversity, like investments in ecosystem restoration and conservation are growing. And very good example here is a Lombard Odier Climate Transition Fund. Just search about this fund and you will find they are integrating biodiversity into their investment strategy itself, right? Then there was some case study which I wanted to discuss now in the list of time. Let's go to next slide, which is module 4. Module 4 is little bit of, here I'm going to discuss about how ESG gets integrated into decision making. Okay. Now, ESG integration starts with aligning the risk and opportunity together in ESG, understanding it and building into your decision making. That's how it starts. How? Let's first understand an example of Microsoft. Now, Microsoft has integrated the ESG into their business strategy, which we have seen in even GHG session, right? Where we understood and learned that business strategy and strategy development has been linked, where they have penalized also. So if a department who has committed to carbon dioxide reduction, if they don't do it, that department will be penalized with $15, I believe. That's the number. I don't remember the GHG recession, but it's around $15 which they charge to that department for that extra carbon emission which department is doing. So they are following their own cap and trade mechanism in order to achieve their net zero target. If you are aware, Microsoft is following 100 and zero commitment by 2030. 100%, first 100 indicates that they want to go 100% renewable energy consumption. That's the first 100. Second 100 is they want to do it 100% of the time, not morning, not day, across time agnostic. They want to be reliant on renewable energy. And third is zero, right? That zero is zero carbon energy purchases. They don't want to purchase even carbon energy, irrespective of where they are. So they want to go into renewable grid. That's how their focus is. And that's target is called 100, 100 and 0. Another three critical aspects of their ESG integration business is that they have committed for $1 billion as one company in next 5 years to be invested in climate innovation fund. They have created a climate innovation fund, which is investing in turn anybody who is developing such kind of technology which they can use or they can help. So they have created, so anybody who is in climate tech, Microsoft is the right buyer of their product plus a good investor as well. Then they want to remove their historical carbon emission by 2050. So whatever they have done for last 30, 40 years, carbon emission till 2050, whatever they will do, they will remove all those, right? They want to go to carbon negative completely in 2050 by removing historical emissions as well. Now, what is this ESG integration all about? So let me define it for you. It is a simple process of incorporating E, S, and G, which is environment, social, and governance, factors into investment analysis. Now, each of these factors had different, detail points. Now, those are critical for us to understand. Just give me one sec. So that requires, if you use these three factors and several factor items there, which we are learning anyway in ESG investing 6-month program, that what are those specific factors? Like biodiversity is one of those social factors. Community engagement is one of those factors. In climate, GHG mitigation is one of those factors. If you use any of those part of those ESG factor into your investment analysis, right? So if you are incorporating a new subsidiary and you say that I do not only want to judge this subsidiary returns in financial term, but also I want to know how much of carbon dioxide this will emit, how much of employee engagement this company will do, how much of diversity this company will bring, how many women will be there in the board. All that decisions, if you look into apart from the financial return or IRR or NPV of that company, that process is called ESG integration. Is it clear? In the decision making, it's very critical to understand. Is this definition sounds good to you guys? Or is it a rocket?
Yes.
Simple,
No,
right?
you put it simply well.
Perfect. Now the purpose is to identify those risks which is coming through this new investment. Yeah, specifically in terms of ESG risk and opportunity which ESG can create for me. For example, if I am I'm working for a Coal India. Say you are a board of director tomorrow, Bhaskar ji or Rajni ji in Coal India. Okay. Now Coal India, is the most polluting company even in the world right now. One of those, by the way, Coal India is one of those most polluting GHG meeting companies right now. And you are a board of director. Now just imagine your situation there. You know that you are floundering on all E part definitely, S part also, because there are a lot of thefts happens and a lot of society is dying in those caving in Jharia coal mines, etc. If you are aware about those. Social is getting impacted. And G is anyway being a government company, you are always been challenged, right? Governance is always been challenged. There will be somebody who is doing this bribing or who is promoting this stealing of coal, etc. Now, all these are challenged. And suddenly, Vivek approaches you and say that, look, I have a project where you can do carbon sequestration in Bombay High, where Reliance is trying to dig more and bring some oil. We will do injection at the same time of carbon dioxide, which you are emitting. will you not love that idea? Even though it might have an IRR of 2%, you will immediately accept. Vivek, go and talk to ONGC, let's get it done. And this has happened. This is a real case example I'm telling you, okay? So that is how you will make a judgment. Why you did make a judgment even though the IRR of Coal India is above 20%. The return which Coal India gives to Indian government is 20%. But I am giving you a 2% return objective job, but you are ready to take. Why? Because you are creating a massive amount of ESG opportunity for your company. And that will compensate Coal India since which they are making, right? So that compensation you want to take rather than just getting that return of 2%. Are you with me? This is why ESG integration is very important at decision-making level and at analysis level. Does that sound a rocket science or very simple again? Yeah, because that is very important for me to understand. Because now we are going slowly into deeper topic.
It's okay, sir.
It's understood, right? No doubt there. Now, how to do it is this is the process. This circle you will see everywhere, even in Chartered Financial Analyst ESG certification as well. This will appear at least 4 times in your book. Different names. Here, I am focusing only ESG integration. Okay. But then there will be ESG investing. Then there will be ESG chart. Why this radial graph is very important? Because this radial graph divides your ESG initiative in different parameters. Okay. Let's start with first parameter and first, first blue radial graph. What is that? That is materiality framework. That starts with whenever you do any kind of integration, you start looking into E, S, and G factor, right? That's a simple step. But in that also, you focus on those material topics which are critical for your industry. For Coal India, it will be GHG emission. That will be material, irrespective of where I'm sitting. Okay. Second will be, of course, social. The third will be governance. You will give that priority. Or maybe second for some people, some independent director will say, no, second is important. Governance is important for me. Yeah. But it's a government company. Even though your governance is important, as long as you are a government company, Rajni ji, you know you can manage those compliances. जाके बात करना होगा मिनिस्टर से एंड यू कैन गेट इट डन या कि बॉस अभी मैं नहीं कर सकती फुलफिल नहीं कर सकती वो पर्टिकुलर आपका कंप्लायंस का रिक्वायरमेंट दीज आर द रीजंस एंड बीइंग दे आर द स्टेक होल्डर दे विल अंडरस्टैंड योर पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू इंस्टेड ऑफ टेकिंग अ हार्श एक्शन बट सोशल एंड अगर मान लो झरिया माइन केविन हो गया एंड 20 लेबर डाइड that will become a disaster for you as an independent director, right? You will be questioned by same minister who is allowing you for the governance. And that's why priority need to be set. This priority setting is materiality, which we learn in GRI, right? Then you need to engage. You need to engage with those GHG emission factors, social factors, etc. Third is the company questionnaire. Fourth is internal ESG research, where you need to keep finding new opportunity and risk in order to safeguard yourself. And that's the second core in ESG integration, along with creating a watch list. That these are my area where I believe tomorrow I will be challenged. For example, coal import is happening. For a Coal India, that's also a challenge because cheaper coal is available in Australia, which they are dumping in India now. And companies like Adani, etc., is buying apart from the Coal India. Clear? And then the second, of course, with that research layer, you have a forecasted financial ratios. Once you integrate all this factor into your financial variable, you create a new ratio, right? You do a duration analysis as well. If you have a green product, then Girish must be knowing it's a MACDUR is the calculation which you do, right? You check the duration instead of saying that my money is doubling in 7 years. फिक्स्ड इनकम में ही होता है ना डबल हो जाता है मनी 7 साल में करेक्ट आपका फिक्स डिपॉजिट सिंपल बट उसको मेजर करते हैं ड्यूरेशन से इट्स कॉल्ड ड्यूरेशन तो दैट इज अ मेथड ऑफ मेजरिंग बॉन्ड्स का रिटर्न को ड्यूरेशन मेथड करते हैं तो वो एनालिसिस आपको करना पड़ता है बिकॉज हियर all this factor which you have considered critical for your business need to be integrated in the duration, right? Return ही आप नहीं देखते हो आप इस वेरिएबल का भी इम्पैक्ट देखते हो Clear? And then, of course, you need to look into relative value analysis, security sensitivity, and scenario analysis. Scenario is very important analysis in ESG factor. Why? Because एक चीज खराब नहीं होती यहाँ पे. In ESG business, sensitivity will be useless at decision making level. You must have heard, right? हमारे जैसे कंसल्टेंट आते होंगे एंड मस्ट बी पिचिंग कि सेंसिटिविटी में मैंने चेक किया 10% रेवेन्यू बढ़ा तो आई एम गेटिंग अ बेटर आईआरआर, या 10% कॉस्ट डाउन गया तो आई एम गेटिंग अ बेटर आईआरआर, दिस मच बेटर. माय प्रोजेक्ट इज वेरी सेंसिटिव टू रेवेन्यू, कॉस्ट, लेबर, मैन पावर, machine, material, etc. But in ESG, one item doesn't changes. It changes cascading effect wise. इसको डोमिनो बोलते हैं हम लोग, डोमिनो इफेक्ट बोलते हैं. क्या होता है जब आपको एक बार मान लो वोल्केनिक इरप्शन हुआ, राइट, फ्लाइट्स हैव स्टॉप्ड, योर ट्रांसपोर्टेशन थ्रू शिप विल इंक्रीज, राइट, which will require more carbon emission and more time as well. Correct? Same destination को reach करने के लिए volcanic eruption, which is one of the risk, natural risk. It's not a man-made climate risk. It's a natural risk. Yesterday we agreed, day before yesterday when we met, we agreed volcanic eruption is climate risk, natural one. अब ये हुआ, अब कैस्केडिंग होते जा रहा है. देखो आप, आपकी फ्लाइट नहीं उड़ रही है, ट्रांसपोर्टेशन हैज बीन जैम्ड, right? You need to use ship. Now ship will initiate additional carbon dioxide. Already environment में स्मोक है, अब कोई लेबर आपके ऑफिस में नहीं आएगा. होगा कि नहीं होगा? इंटरनेशनल से आपकी जो डेलीगेशन आनी थी वो रुक जाएगी. तो इट विल हैव अ सिनारियो. That is why in ESG scenario analysis is very critical, right? And that's why in key component of ESG integration start with data analysis, where you have to have a key matrices gathered, specifically through materiality framework, engagement, questionnaires, research, and watch list. And parties who are providing the data may be third party as well. Some research institution को आप engage करोगे. Then analysis need to be done कि how it will impact. And then decision making happens on the basis of scenario analysis. Yeah. And even portfolio construction can be done on the same basis. Why? Because first and foremost thing is ESG integration also highlights physical and transitional risk. Now, physical risk is defined as a risk which is arising from climate related events. Mostly, right? Mostly that is the physical risk. Why? Flood happened. I have given you example that in Assam, when flooding happened, and not in Assam, all seven sisters, when the flooding happened, 6 company went for bankruptcy. 6 discoms went for bankruptcy because their insurance provider declined to fund them. They lost all the grid. Okay. Now that is a physical risk. Same happened with the Sikkim GLOF event in 2024. GLOF हुआ ना, glacier lac outburst हुआ था. Yeah, whole infrastructure got distorted. Even some dams has been distorted. So that is physical risk. Of course, it happens in US hurricane and wildfire is very normal nowadays. Los Angeles wildfire, we have discussed several times. Impact is operational disruption, financial losses. Transition risk, which is a हम transit करने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं, and then there is a risk associated with the rift of shift in low carbon economy. Now, shift in low carbon economy requires a lot of policy changes as well. For example, China did that. 2023, if you see the statistics, China has transitioned themselves massively on solar power. और उसके रीजन हमने डिस्कस करे थे लास्ट सेशन में, राइट? एक तो उनका यूएस बंद कर दिया, आईआरए लेके आ गया 2022 में, राइट, वेयर यूएस कंपनी वर फोर्स टू डू देयर ओन फॉर मैन्युफैक्चरिंग सोलर पैनल मैन्युफैक्चरिंग एक्सेट्रा. So there was a clogging of their own product. So government decided let's use all those and convert all our coal guzzling plant into solar power plant. They did that. So those kind of transition risk also need to be built in and understood whenever we do ESG integration. उसके examples मैंने right में आपको दिखाए. Even just couple of days back, news was Los Angeles has lost $164 billion in property and capital losses. ये डीडी का न्यूज है, कोई ये मैन्युफैक्चर्ड न्यूज नहीं है. ट्रम्प इसको चैलेंज करने में ट्रम्प को भी प्रॉब्लम हो जाएगा, मोदी जी से लड़ना पड़ेगा ना. तो सेकेंड डिस्कशन इज यूरोपियन यूनियन कार्बन टैक्स एंड कॉस्ट. इंडिया हैज 0.05%. दिस कॉस्ट इज कार्बन टैक्स कॉस्ट. ये जो सीबैम से आ रहा है कॉस्ट, It is estimated to be 0.05% of our GDP, which is $4 trillion right now. आप समझ रहे हो कितने बिलियन डॉलर का लॉस इंडिया को होने वाला है because of this CBAM, which is coming from Europe, right? And that is why you need to bring ESG risk management, which you can do it through diversification. So आप ऐसे सेक्टर में इन्वेस्ट करो जो ग्रीनिंग की तरफ जा रहे हैं or they are resilient to climate changes. Second, engagement. If your industry is exposed and you have already invested, for example, मेरा investment JK Cement में, now उस कंपनी से मैं जाके इंटरेक्ट करूंगा, बॉस आप क्या कर रहे हो? What action are you taking to make your industry green? Can you sustain this additional levy of 17 to 30% from CBAM? Will you survive the embargo put by US? Right? Indian steel, by the way, is even though they have put 25% tariff, United States has put, Indian industry is mostly aloof because they send it to Europe and Europe send it to US. So European companies will suffer rather than the Indian company. And that is why in managing ESG risk, you need scenario analysis as well. With that, we are shifting our gear to the last part, which is ESG data and carbon accounting. Now, carbon accounting we have done in detail, but still I will revise it at higher level. What is carbon accounting? This picture everybody will remember who has attended our GHG protocol. Now, I always define carbon accounting into 3 steps. What is that step? That carbon accounting is a process. What is this process? Process of measuring and reporting. What do you measure? You measure companies' greenhouse gas emission. As simple as that, okay? Third part, so first part is measuring and reporting. It's a process of measuring and reporting. Second part, you measure companies and countries or individual carbon footprint or companies' greenhouse gas emissions. From specific sources, you need to identify those sources. Rajni, do you remember those sources? Which are those sources which you need to measure and report? Direct and indirect, right?
Right.
डायरेक्ट में क्या आता है? स्कोप, कौन सा स्कोप आएगा डायरेक्ट इमिशन में?
Direct is a scope 1.
एब्सोल्युटली. एंड इनडायरेक्ट में
पावर जहां से एनर्जी खरीदते हैं.
पावर एनर्जी स्कोप 2 एंड स्कोप 3 इज सप्लाई
value chain is supply.
Absolutely. Al Gore has defined it 30 years ago when he was a champion in ESG. Nobody realized that. Of course, he never became president. He was a presidential candidate. He remained vice president, US, and that's why I'm writing him former US vice president. This one of the speech which is there on the YouTube, you must watch. And this is 30 years ago, US president is talking about it. Now, 30 years after, we have another president which talks about it, saying that it's a hoax, it's useless. But US is one of those people who have started this moment as well. Let them say whatever they are saying. But how he defined carbon accounting was very interesting. He said carbon accounting is the financial statement for environment. Like we do for company a financial statement, we do for country a financial statement in the budget they produce. Similarly, for environment, when we do, it is called carbon accounting. He put it very simply, to the point. Why? Because it helps organization to understand their impact on climate change and take action to reduce their emission. So this goes hand in hand. If you can't measure, can't improve. है ना? अगर रिजल्ट नहीं आया तो बच्चा को मालूम थोड़ी चलेगा कि मैंने कम पढ़ा है कि ज्यादा पढ़ा है. रिजल्ट इसलिए आता है कि फिर ही कैन इंप्रूव नेक्स्ट टाइम. इसलिए नहीं आता कि वो गंदा है, वो खराब है, उसको नहीं आता है. ऐसे में हमारी एजुकेशन सिस्टम भी नो. सिमिलरली फॉर इन्वायरमेंट, मेजरिंग इज इंपॉर्टेंट टू ब्रिंग अ सॉल्यूशन टू इट. तब वो रिड्यूस करना चालू करेगा ना. उसको मालूम चलेगा कि डायरेक्ट में ज्यादा इमिशन है, इनडायरेक्ट में कम है, या इनडायरेक्ट में ज्यादा है, डायरेक्ट में कम है. So that discussion can only start, and this is said 30 years ago by Al Gore, when you start measuring it. However, World Resource Institute, WRI, which is the founding body of your GHG protocol, Greenhouse Gas Emission Protocol, right, along with WECD, दोनों ने मिलके ये रिपोर्ट पब्लिश करी थी और उन्होंने डिफाइन करा है GHG प्रोटोकॉल में carbon accounting is a process of measuring and reporting. Like I divided into 3 parts, just put it together. Company greenhouse emission, which is a critical tool for organization for understand and manage their environmental impact. Clear? Now let's understand what is this scope 1, 2, and 3. Clearly, scope 1 is a direct emission which your company does in their own boundaries. You have to set a boundary first. We will learn in next slide. Of course, we will not go in detail, but we'll learn how to set the boundaries to understand what is a scope 1 emission. And then, of course, you have a scope 2 and 3 emissions. The scope 2 emissions are those indirect emissions which comes from purchased electricity, heat, or steam. Why only these three? Because these are the one which I can make a choice on. Do you want to take electricity from a grid which is a fossil fuel based, or do you want to take electricity from a grid which is completely on renewable energy, or you want to create your own captive unit? That decision you can make, and that's why it is indirect. Little closer, that's why scope 2. When it is out of your hand, for example, supplier of minerals, supplier of raw material, can you control Unilever supplying you a soap cake and you are just wrapping boxes and sending it to your customer? You can't control them. That is the case which is called supply chain emission, and this emission is also indirect emission coming from supply chain, employee, commuting of those employees, and product use. For example, you produced a shampoo bottle, it went to houses. How they use is their choice, right? Whether they are using hot water, there is a geyser used or not, electricity consumed or not, to use hot that water and then used on your hair to rinse shampoo, all that you cannot control. And that's why that is the scope 3 emission, which is you can't control properly. And that emissions are how many in total? Anybody remember? Scope 3 emission. There are several scope 3 emission. What is the total number?
They were nearly, I think, 12 or 16 something.
15 in total.
Uh,
15 in total, 8 in upstream and 7 in downstream.
7 in downstream, yes.
Yeah, upstream matlab cradle to
Cradle to
factory.
the factory, yes.
Factory. And from factory to your
That
consumer
is to the consumer.
is the downside, downstream, right? So that's the 7, 8 plus 7. Of course, we are not going into detail, but let me also explain to you how the boundary being created so that you can identify scope 1 and scope 2 and scope 3 emission. Now, there are two methods to that. One method is called organization boundary setting through equity share approach. Now, equity share approach says that if you own into a subsidiary, whatever percentage, that percentage should be applied to that company's carbon emission and brought into your company. Very important concept. Because most of the company, for example, in GHG emission, we have seen very closely Reliance Industry Limited ka boundary setting, GHG emission calculation, etc. Now, just taking that example, if you remember, how many company is the subsidiary to Reliance Industry Limited? Do you remember those numbers? Vaguely even.
256.
Correct. In 2023, they had 255 or 65 companies. And in 2024, that number has gone to 295. Yeah, 30 company more they added in 1 year. Now, those are subsidiary companies. Now, whether that should be included in carbon accounting or not is a decision of theirs. We also looked into Tesla example along with Unilever, right? We calculated GHG emission in detail for all three companies. Now, if you remember, Tesla has said that these are my companies. I calculate those emissions, but I do not include in my operation because different reason they have cited in the book. But Reliance Industry Limited clearly declined. They said that we have 295 subsidiary. Out of that 245, I own more than 100%. So of course, I own 100%, not more than 100%. Rest of them approximately 70 to 50%. But I am not including a single other company apart from Reliance Industry, 6 locations. You see, that is called boundary creation because they cannot control, they don't have manpower there, they think it is useless exercise, whatever case may be, but they are not including it, and that's a reality. That is called equity share approach. Second approach is control approach. Do I control that operation? And that will decide scope 1, 2, and 3, which I have just defined for you. And again, here you can apply financial control or operational control. Both are defined and put it in front of you. Apart from that, GHG protocol also have 5 key principles. Do you remember that anecdotal evident reasoning which I...
RCCT, no?
Yes, absolutely. TA, traveling allowance. So RCC, on the rail, we use RCC, right? What's it called? The railroad runs on.
नहीं, RCC, Railway Concrete,
नहीं, वो,
reinforced concrete
that is
sleepers होता है.
RCC is reinforced concrete, cement concrete. But what I was telling is that RCC is used in the railway, right? They
हाँ.
replace the wooden. I'm just forgetting the name. By the way, I'm a civil engineer.
Sleeper.
Huh? Sleepers. Yeah.
Sleeper.
So they remove the wooden sleepers to RCC sleeper on which the people travel, and that's why traveling allowance. So RCC traveling allowance. Why R? R is for relevance. GCC protocol, GHG protocol specifies the principle number one as a relevance. Anything you discuss has to have a relevance to your company and your operation. That's why relevance is the first. Then comes the second C, first C, which is completeness. Any data you produce in the GHG emission, it has to have completeness. You cannot give a half information that, look, I can measure up to my assembly plant. I can't measure in the warehouse how much carbon emission is happening. That data is not acceptable. You are not following GHG protocol. Third is consistency. Whatever I produced last year, for example, I produced report in kilojoules. This year, if I'm changing it to kilowatt hour, I need to justify the same. So consistency has to be maintained. Fourth is transparency, the TA, right? The transparency. Now, transparency requires that how I calculated the data, which source I have used. Did I use a spent method? Did I use activity-based method? Did I use any other method which is available? I need to disclose it very clearly, right? कहाँ से मिला हमको data GHG का? And finally, the accuracy has to be there. I need to assure that all the information which I'm producing in report is accurate. Yeah, again, it's a sector-wide, it changes, and global standardization has happened because of the GHG protocol or ISO 14064-1 protocol. So these are the two protocols which are available. Apart from that, another major concept which is important to understand in greenhouse gas emission, specifically when we are integrating the environmental side, is materiality and double materiality. Now, materiality is very simple. What is the impact of climate change on my company? How financially it is impacting is what I'm calculating here. At the same time, I am also impacting to the climate, right? If I start considering that impact, then it becomes double materiality. So one side is the financial implication to my operation, and second side is how I am impacting the environment or climate and what impact I am doing, what damage I am making to the environment. If I start calculating both sides of the equation, it becomes double materiality. So materiality is defined as identifying ESG issues which are critical and most relevant to the company financial performance and their stakeholder is called materiality, right? That is why X and Y graph we draw. When we talk about double materiality, assessing both how ESG issues impact a company financial, which is financial materiality or single materiality, and how company impacts the society and environment, which is impact materiality. So these are the two different materialities. When I use impact and financial together is double. When I only use financial, which is the environment impacting my company, is materiality. Simple. Any doubt here, anyone? बहुत
No.
important concept है, and these are the most recent concept. Why? Because CSRD is making mandatory right now to report on double materiality, not only single materiality. Why double materiality matters? Because it gives the holistic view. It provides a complete picture of company ESG performance, while regulatory trend is making it more important now. For example, European Union Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive, which is CSRD in short, mandates double materiality reporting. And along with that, investors do not only wants to know the financial impact of climate change on their company, but also they want to measure that how much company wants to is going to impact the environment because they need to report it to their investors or their suppliers of money. That is another big concept. With that, we come to the end of the session, which establishes a fact that integrating ESG, not only from risk point of view, but also from opportunity point of view, helps in creating long-term value creation. What are the key takeaway here? That ESG integration and risk management are critical for long-term value creation. Second, carbon accounting and materiality assessment provide data needed for informed decision making. चाहिए ना, तभी तो आप मेक कर सकते हो कि कितना हम फाइनेंशियली मेरी कंपनी इम्पैक्ट कर रही है और मैं कितना एनवायरमेंट को इम्पैक्ट कर रहा हूँ. Third, scenario analysis help us to prepare for future uncertainty coming from the ESG side and specifically the opportunity as well. And that is with that, I am ending my session saying that always look for how, as a decision maker and as an analyst, always look for how a company or your organization can integrate ESG into its strategy as well as in day-to-day operation. Always engage with a stakeholder, collaborate with investor, regulator, supports the community where you are operating while driving towards a sustainable future. With that, thank you very much for being a patient listener. Now it's your chance to ask questions, and I will give you a link for attempting the exam.
So, today you have covered 3 chapters.